Now that AI is interjecting itself so much into communication and negotiations, how do you see that affecting using empathy and tactical empathy here in the future?
We're playing around with things that are never going to change. Human nature is never going to change. People want to be understood. In point of fact, if we want to buy into that, then people are starved for human connection. People are starved to be heard. That's empathy. And if you're a boss and you know that your people think you're an idiot, you say, I probably look like an idiot.
Chris, nice to meet you officially.
Nice to see you.
So I'm a CEO for a company called PureWay Compliance.
PureWay Compliance.
Yes, so we manufacture those red containers that needles and syringes go into for healthcare facilities.
All right, yeah.
So, and we also help patients at home get rid of needles and syringes. So an interesting business kind of ran into.
Necessary.
Yeah. So my question is really related to the application of empathy in the leadership in a fast-growing business, especially in the digital age that's changing very, very quickly. So my question is, in managing a company that is multicultural, multi-generational, through this digital age of video conferencing, text message, Teams chat, you name it, leading with empathy obviously has, when done correctly, a ton of value. Implementing leading with empathy has challenges to it. So in working with a large team like I do that's across the world and helping them to implement empathy, my question is two parts. The first part is, what are some of the main issues that you see or challenges with new leaders trying to implement empathy with their teams that we can avoid? And secondly, and this is probably the most challenging part, now that AI is interjecting itself so much into communication and negotiations, how do you see that affecting using empathy and tactical empathy here in the future?
All right, so somebody asked Jeff Bezos, I'll paraphrase him, a number of years ago, how's Amazon keeping up for changes? How are you guys planning for change? And he said, we don't. We're playing around with things that are never going to change. It's never going to change if people want faster service. It's never going to change if people want the best price. It's never going to change. That's how we build our plans. Human nature is never going to change. People want to be understood. That's never going to change. Hasn't changed in 100,000 years that we've traced the history of civilization of mankind back. So we got this idea that today communication's different, people are different, ChatGPT, social media, AI. Human nature hasn't changed. People still want to be understood. People still want to connect. Now, the media doesn't want us to believe that. And, keeping up with the times don't want you to believe that. In point of fact, if we want to buy into that, then people are starved for human connection. People are starved to be heard. And so there's even more of a need for leading with empathy and understanding. Now, empathy is not judgment. If you're a boss and you know that your people think you're an idiot, you say, I probably look like an idiot. That's empathy. That's not an admission that you are an idiot. It's an admission that you are smart enough to be aware of how they see you in the moment, which then begins to drop barriers. So the way that people want to be heard and connect hasn't changed. And point of fact, it's my contention they're starved for it even more now than they ever were before. And as the media, the evil media. But as by and large the media tries to convince us that we should cater to this, the more they're wrong. And people want to be heard and understood. People want to connect. And the more we try to get away with it, the younger generation is actually starting to reject all this digital stuff. Because no, we don't want this. I'm talking to a 20-something-year-old about 10 months ago in Europe. He's in Spain when you're never going to convince me that it wasn't a Russian attack on a power grid in Spain, because all of Spain lost their power at the same time. That is not somebody accidentally flipped the wrong switch in Madrid and knocked Barcelona out. That's a Russian going I told you it was going to work. But if they lost all their power, they lost all their internet and everything and all the social media. And this 20-something is telling me hey, I got a beer and I sat down and I talked to some of my friends and it was great. So What am I saying? They still want to connect. They still want to hear you. They still want to be understood. That's not going to change. You don't run it through any one media. You don't do it all text. You don't do it all email. You don't do it all phone calls. You mix your messages. You give it out there a little at a time. And you say, look, you probably think I'm out of touch. It's empathy. It's not saying you are out of touch. That's you saying, you probably think I'm out of touch. That's all it is. And so articulate how they see it without agreeing with it. You think I'm an idiot. You think I don't know what I'm doing. You're asking yourself right now whether or not I'm paying any attention to any of the feedback that you're giving me. None of that is an agreement or an admission. It's a recognition. And everybody that works for you starve for it, despite what the media wants you to believe.
Thank you.